Webcasting from Southeast Kansas, I'm Jonathan Switzer, and this is the Roboblog Chronicles, Episode 9. We are continuing our discussion of the video game corner of the Robotech franchise. So, what's next? Well, I guess they could make another cell phone game. But seriously, for the big consoles, for the PS3, Wii, Xbox 360 Troika at this point. Well, we're not going to get a Southern Cross game. I think, that can be ruled right out. And we've had a Macross game. And we've had a new generation game. So, obviously, and, taking into account the current marketing cycle, we're going to probably get something Shadow Chronicles branded. But I don't think we're going to get a Shadow Chronicles game per se. Because the Shadow Chronicles is an absolutely terrible engine for new story-based merchandising. I mean, think about it. Shadow Chronicles starts with Vince Grant going to go find the SDF-3. The Shadow Chronicles ends with Vince Grant going to go find the SDF-3. And a lot of stuff happens in the middle. But at the end of the day, if you are going anywhere forward in the story, since the last thing Vince Grant is told to go do, and agrees to do because this is his thing at this point, this is the last thing he's going to do is go find the SDF-3. That's gonna have to be addressed. Unless you are setting your story so far afield that it doesn't actually matter and probably won't actually deal with the Haid Knights, which are the big thing in the Shadow Chronicles. They're our new foe. So no, I think much more likely it's going to be something pitting the Expeditionary Force against the Invid. Something that uses all the iconography of the Shadow Chronicles, but in a more Sentinels-like setting. Seriously, the planet-hopping aspect of the Sentinels would work beautifully in a video game. If you can get Vicious Cycle back to do the game, they've already got a Veritech engine, and they've already got a Cyclone engine. So, you've got your two bases there covered. And you've got all the Sentinels aliens either redesigned or in a state where it is assumed that they can be used. And you just let them go nuts with the planets and the architecture. I was recently sending Med Map Guy of his Robotech Flash blog some materials based on the Sentinels worlds, out of the comics and such, and he was kind of irked when he noticed that these aren't particularly well designed worlds, and of course I think that comes a lot from McKinney just being left to invent all this stuff on his own, and then visually the Waltrips, Jason John Waltrip, had to use that to invent the worlds on their own. I don't think any of the material of those worlds from the animation project actually made it to either party, if even all that stuff was designed. I assume it was, since production was rolling right along up until about episode 3 or 4 of the Sentinels. I would assume they would have had all of the worlds all figured out by then, but when you assume. Anyway, so that stuff will totally have to be redesigned, and I would assume that Harmony Gold will be working on that right now for the new movie, since the issue of the Sentinels will come up. They will probably show up in some capacity, even if not their whole worlds showing up in the movie. Some artifacts of their culture would, have to come across in their dress, in whatever equipment they would be carrying, in maybe some vehicles that appear flying over the skies of Tyrol. That would make a nice tie-in between the second movie and the new game. So, with all that covered, I was also thinking that this would be a pretty decent springboard for a Robotech massively multiplayer online game. Now, of course, I have no experience with online games at all. Robotech geekery takes up a lot of time, and beyond that, it's the summer. I'm doing a lot of sleeping in, so I don't have much time for online gaming, and plus, online gaming requires subscription fees and other pesky things that I don't have. But working from what I understand from friends who play such games, and reading about games like this, and so on and so forth, reading Penny Arcade 3 times a week. From all the information that is filtered through my head, I was thinking that a good way to set up a Robotech online role-playing game would, again, be from the Expeditionary Force template, with each server being a separate world, colony world, or one of the Master's old colony worlds, like the worlds of the Sentinels, or something along those lines. And each world would be on each world you could have say like underground installations set up, crashed Zentradi ships, ruined Masters, old colonies and stuff like that, to facilitate having each of the different alien races from the TV series set up there, in case somebody wants to play a Zentradi, or to give the player characters, the Expeditionary Force player characters, something to fight against, something to go against. And you set all this stuff up, a certain amount of plausibility is being stretched here in the name of playability. And I think that any well-designed game requires a certain amount of that. I remember back when Battlecry came out, people bemoaning the fact that, you have like an unlimited supply of missiles. That's not realistic. No, but it makes the game more playable. So you've got a world, and you've got all these bits and pieces and artifacts of the alien invaders from the Robotech animated series there, facilitating, again, different kinds of player characters, or at the very least, different kinds of enemies who will come and do big raids and stuff. The problem I keep coming in my head, is the fact that these worlds will have to actually be really, 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 really big. Because you're going to have player characters piloting, VF-1 Valkyries, Alpha Fighters, Logans, whatever, across vast distances. That will require just a massive amount of space. Now, I'm sure on the PC, that might not be so much of a problem. And on the current generation of video game systems, that might not be so much of a problem either, come to think of it. But, it's certainly something that, requires a certain amount of thought here. Anyway, yeah, that's a horrible note to end on, but I'm quickly running out of time, so I might respond to comments later on in the week. In any case, this is Captain JLS, signing off.